Have you ever seen a bird with a to-do list? They seem to be okay and get around quite well without a to-do list, do they? Have you ever seen a flower or some flower in front of a mirror making sure everything looks perfect and be presentable? Well, they are quite well and content with who they are. Just being present and not worrying about looks, not worrying about to-dos and rushing and do things get done, is it all clean, and did I fulfill all my requirements, or did I get A's on the test? So they seem to be just fine. And I think the invitation for us to do from Jesus is sometimes to just be. And instead of being human doings, being all over the place, to just be human beings. And being in the present, being right here and breathing deeply and letting things go. That's Jesus' invitation for us. To let a little bit go this comparing ourselves. Do I live up to the standards of someone else? The worrying about the looks and the worrying about the grades and the job and trying to become someone and trying to become better, and all this striving that when we compare ourselves or try to grade ourselves, where do we fit in? And so Jesus says, the birds, the flowers, they don't do that. And God provides for them. So why can we not live more like the birds and the flowers? What gets in between? Sometimes I wonder, don't you? What gets in between? Well, I think on one hand it's fear, or it is fear, anxiety, and worry. And you could almost describe them as siblings or as cousins or as family, because they often come together. Fear, I imagine, is one of these parents, and fear is always very specific, like I'm afraid of spiders, or I'm afraid that this happens, and there are good instincts, like when you cross the street, you better look to the left. When you're in England, you look to the right. Otherwise, like my brother, you could almost get hit. He wanted to cross, he looked to the left, nothing is coming. Well, the bus came from the right, thank God. He wasn't too close or didn't step into it. So looking around, good instinct, be just aware, be cautious. Fear has a positive impetus too, a protective factor like good instinct. Now, what is anxiety? Anxiety is like this, not very specific. So anxiety is like, not like fear of one specific thing you're afraid of, where you can fill in the blanks. But anxiety is more this energy, it's kind of unease, it's this kind of, and it's actually contagious. When someone is anxious, and several people can get anxious, it's almost like passing on to groups sometimes. And the best way how I heard it described is like this feedback loop. Sometimes the sound, the speaker is caught up by the microphone, and then it gets amplified, so anxiety can grow and become bigger and overwhelming. You feel like, yikes, or like a chicken with the head cut off, or so be all over the place. That's anxiety, how I imagine it. And worry. What is worry in this field? Worry is almost like, to me, going through all the scenarios. This could happen, and then this could happen, and you go into that sphere of, well, very specifics. And the interesting thing in the Greek language, the word that Jesus uses for worry, it's called Marry now. It sounds almost like marinating, but that's not it. Marry now stands for being torn in different directions. It's almost like being split, being not the opposite of being centered, true, united, one person. So worry describes this being torn, this split, this kind of being in different places or trying to be in different, just being torn apart. And what do we do that? What do we do with that? How do we live with that? And I imagine sometimes the worrying and the weight that is on our shoulders or what we carry, the responsibilities. Sometimes I feel like it's like a rock weighing us down. It's like heavy. And the invitation then is, what do we do with that? How can we look at that rock? What do we do with it? And is there a way to, in one way or another, to release it and let it go? When Jesus said, do not worry, what is the opposite of worry? Is it trusting? Is it letting go? Relaxing into grace? Trusting that it will be okay. Today, nothing will happen that God and I together will not be able to handle in one way or another. Otherwise, if it were not so, well, we wouldn't be around, would we? We made it out of bed today. May have been with some aches. May not have been so easy, but somehow we got our way and we were able to move. And so experience shows we're here. We made it through challenging time. And can we trust that no matter what will happen, we'll make it through, or we can face it and will not be lost in it? I think sometimes this beautiful, beautiful story of Jesus and the disciples in the boat. It's just this clear water, everything calm. They set off to cross the Sea of Galilee. And then unbeknownst, never expected, totally surprising, this huge wind comes from the hills. And they end up in the storm and they feel overwhelmed. Jesus is very calmly sleeping in the boat. And the waves are crushing into the boats and they feel overwhelmed, feel like we're sinking, we're drowning, we're be gone. Then they turn to Jesus and wake him up, and Jesus has this calming presence, calming the storm and calming the disciples. So with our worries, we feel overwhelmed, it's becoming too much, it's becoming heavy on us. Can we turn to Jesus with that rock, with that heaviness, and saying like, yeah, it's too much for me to carry on my own. Will you help me? Can I let go? The opposite of worry, what is it? Is it distrusting? Now, we did this trusting exercise in youth group a couple of years ago, and it was like pulling the chair up here, turning around on top of the chair, and the others holding hands, and trying to let yourself fall backward and trusting that they catch you. Yikes. Yeah. And then being there on the verge. Can I trust that they will catch me? Can I let go and know that someone is holding me? Brother Lawrence was a Carmelite monk. And Brother Lawrence, nowhere near in the hierarchy, he wasn't even ordained. His job was to sweep the floors, wash the pots and pans, to peel the potatoes, he was like a kitchen help. But Brother Lawrence was a genius in his own way. in a way that he connected in the here and now with God and opened up. And the practice, the spiritual practice that he practiced is called practicing the presence of God. So being in the presence of God right here and right now. And he said, like, just being aware of God's presence when he peeled the potato, being aware of God's presence when he washed the dishes, being aware of God's presence when he swept the floor. And he proceeded in that practice, just the awareness that God is all around, God is in me, God is present, that he said and he experienced, he said, I feel as close to God when I'm sweeping the floors as during Mass and the Holy Sacrament. So it wasn't the place, it wasn't the sanctuary, it wasn't the priest that made the presence of God real, but it was his awareness, his openness, with his breath, being aware that God is right here, right now, in us and among us. And the image he used, literally the image, he said, I feel like an infant in mom's arms and at mom's breast. Have you ever seen a baby being held, drinking milk, worrying about, will I get milk tomorrow? Will I get milk afterwards? They just rest, being held, being fed, being nurtured. And I think deep down when Jesus says, become like children, I think he invites us to become as trusting as children. Trusting, letting go, what weighs on us, and realizing we do not have to carry all of that on our own. Another mystic, Meister Eckhart, said, and that fits with our scripture today and the message of Jesus so beautifully, that it is not in acquiring that we grow closer to God, that the way to heaven, and heaven not as a place, a specific place, but heaven as a state of being and the presence of being in and in God's presence, he said, that's not happening by more, by addition, but that happens by subtraction. So less stuff, less frills, less ego, a little bit less of me, and making space for more, making space for the presence of God. Because, as Jesus said, if we worry and if we strive and try to gain more and more and more, we may lose in the process our very own soul, our own beings for who we are created to be. Being here, being now, being in the presence, relaxing like a baby that's being held. I think deep down we all need that experience, and we're all longing for that. Longing that it's going to be okay. That weight that you're carrying, that rock and that worry, will you let it go? Will you hand it over?